Happening, guys? This is Adi from Theodos International. We are back on a Sunday after the Greek national team beat Finland. It was all for naught, though. They are ending the Nations League with 15 points. And we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about some news with Olympiacos. No more international football, boys, until March. So, boys and girls, we have nothing but Olympiacos to look forward to until then. Super excited. And as you can guess, I am rolling solo again. So get the comments in. Let me know what you're thinking and where you're tuning in from. Love to hear where you guys are coming in from. This community is getting so big. And as Costas with a K always says, we are listened to on every continent except for Antarctica. So check in, let us know your thoughts, and let's get this moving. Don't forget, also, for those of you that are just starting to tune in, you guys are trickling in here. I know it's an odd day, international break on a Sunday. But if you're tuning in, don't forget to like and subscribe. Every engagement helps us continue to grow the red and white community. And guys, while you're at it, please take a minute and follow us if you don't already on all of our social media channels. If you like what you see here, subscribe on YouTube. We're less than 500 away for 6,000. On YouTube. We're excited about that. We're less than 120 away for 11K on Instagram. Instagram is taking off. Facebook also just recently broke 7,000. So the red and white footprint just keeps growing. So help us continue to do that. If you're listening to this on audio, think about giving us a 5-star review. Again, on that platform, every engagement helps us find more people. One other thing, Football Content Awards coming up on Thursday. Super excited about it. I will be in London this week with Kostas Lianos and Costa Levuyani. So Costa with a C, Costa with a K. The three of us will be there. We are pumped. We're super excited. Thank all of you who voted for us. And we're going to see what happens. We'll keep you guys updated. We'll take pictures. We'll take video. And we'll keep you guys posted as things go on. So we're super excited. Hoping to meet quite a few people in the space of football content. So online football content, I should say. So thank you guys again. And we're super excited for this opportunity. Don't forget, you can also support us on Patreon. $1 a month gets you into the WhatsApp group. A lot of crazy stuff goes on in that WhatsApp chat. So if you want to talk to other people about Olympiacos, there's a lot of different opinions. But you know what? It's been a great community we've made. It's been so cool to also see the patrons meet up with each other when they go into different countries. It's just such a cool, really cool community and a cool tool that's now been created. There's also extra content, some great interviews. We recently did an interview with Sophie Nicolaou, Greek Cypriot diaspora resident in California, who has had an extraordinary career, not just with football, but in general, in production and media content. And now she covers MLS, MLS women, or actually it's NWSL, Women's Champions League overseas. And she also covers Arsenal. So another fun interview. We've interviewed some great people. So check them out and consider joining us over there on Patreon. Now, guys, we have a couple little quick bits of some news to get through before we start talking about Olympiacos or the national team. Olympiacos BC crushed PAOK today in the Greek Basket League. 30 points. They beat them 90-60. So great win for the team. We also have a EuroLeague game coming up this week against Baskonia. Just won this week. It's not a double beat. And the team's on fire. I think it's like 5 wins in a row. Incredible stuff. And if you're not a big basketball person, I strongly, strongly recommend that you watch. I don't know anything about basketball. I don't know the tactics and the fundamentals, but the team is so fun to watch. And let me tell you, every game is like a heart attack. I don't know how you guys get through a single season. I mean, just the last couple of seasons watching this Olympiacos basketball team, they're capable of anything. But man, the heart attack during a game, I don't know how. It's probably aged me like 15 years just this season so far. But check it out because it's a really, really fun time. It's a really, really, really great team, and they're going to do some great things this year. I'm sure of it. Another quick update for Babis Kostoulas. We actually were given some insight on why he was not called up to anybody for the U21s. A couple of you had noticed that on various outlets, it said that Babis Kostoulas was injured. And Nikos Kotsis came out today and said that Olympiacos and EPO, the Hellenic Football Federation, had come to an agreement to keep Kostoulas in Greece. Because of fixture fatigue, in the last month and a half, he's basically played games almost every 4 days, 3.5 days, 4 days. It's crazy. So he also had a little discomfort. So it's a preventative thing, load management, as it's called in basketball, in order to make sure that he does not maintain a serious injury, because we need him for the club. We need him to stay healthy, especially the way things are going with how many injuries with what's going on. So Kostulas is supposed to be okay for the Ike game. And they just literally kept him out to keep things light and make sure that his fatigue's okay and that this discomfort that he had is taken care of. But everything's supposed to be pretty good regarding Kostulas. Another injury update, Lorenzo Pirola. Nicola Koplos came out on the radio and said that Pirola's injury is nothing serious. He will also be available for Ike, super important. He also discussed some Juventus rumors, which I had not seen before he brought them up. Apparently in Italy, they were discussing rumors of Pirola and Juventus being maybe tapping into him as a backup center back. And again, really cool to hear about the interest, but I will tell you this, right now, Pirola is a little bit too important given the injuries that we have at left back, and he's been playing pretty well at left back, unless we're talking about a really big fee and whether or not you necessarily trust the club to find a left back in the winter. That's really what we're talking about here. So if it were up to me, I'd be keeping him unless an offer comes that we can't refuse. Then we're talking making some moves. Nelson Abbey is another left-footed center back that we have out on loan. So I guess worst case, we could recall the loan and bring him back. But anyway, I would not be a major fan. Knowing kind of in reality what kind of offers we get, I would not be necessarily a fan of Lorenzo Pirola going right now. But the interest shouldn't surprise anybody. He's Italian, captain of he was captain of the U21 national team, captain of, I guess it's U23 now. He's captain of the younger national team. He was a talent. He was starter for Salernitana, so he knows Serie A, and he's doing pretty well for us, all things considered. So I don't think it should surprise anybody that he is necessarily being tapped by other teams. So really cool either way. So anyway, now that that's all over, guys, get your comments in. Whatever you want to talk about, we will talk about. So I think there's a lot of stuff that we can chat about today, both for the Ethniki Omada, for the Greek national team, as well as the Olympiacos. So whatever you guys want to talk about, I'm here. I do want to talk about the Greek national team briefly, because that's really the only football we saw today was national team football. Win today against Finland. First half didn't start off so well, but then things came together thanks to our center backs. But whatever, we're going to get into that. And we ended up getting the win. We get 15 points in League B for the Nations League, which is a shame that it's not enough for us to go on, but it does help us with a potential backup if we need qualification and we fail to qualify through the qualification stages in first or second place. So there is something to that there because we had such a great performance. One big thing, though, before we start discussing the game itself and anything else you guys have, Christos Mouzakitis became today the youngest player ever to debut in a competitive match for the Greek national team. That is incredible. Incredible. I am so proud of this kid. Sure, he played a couple of minutes today, but this kid is the future of the Greek national team. And I'm so happy that Jovanovic, if nothing else, made this statement today, played Christos Mouzakitis today, even for a few minutes, because while Jovanovic, may be slow on the uptake with some things, he's very conservative, he doesn't take too many risks. He does recognize that we need to bring in the younger generation, because the older generation, the Belkases, the Madaloses, the Bakasetas, that generation has failed. You have to keep some of them around. Of course, Bakasetas is the team captains. You have to keep some of them around, but we need to start building with the new pieces. They represent a brighter potential and a brighter future for us than what we've had. So Jovanovic at least has that. And he took us to 15 points, guys, in League B. It's not bad. We got a result against England. I know a lot of people were upset about the shellacking at home. We kind of came back to earth, but GOK says it right here. It's a record for Greece to get 15 points in a 6-round qualification group. He's right. So there's something to hang our hats on there. And I don't think that's anything that anybody should be upset about. So a couple of comments coming in here. Saki's here. Info about the Mouzakitis. I think I told you guys about that already. He was feeling the strain. He was fatigued, and he also had a little bit of a discomfort that they didn't clarify where the discomfort was, but he had one. So keeping him out, he got a bit of a rest, and we return to things against AEK. He'll be available there. Andreas Mitsis commenting on something Fetanos had said. And he said, regarding the Ethniki, Olympiacos has given us a new dimension and build up, and in general with the ball at our feet. Bakasetas once more stepped forward with a good goal. Look, Olympiacos for me arguably could have been man of the match. The center backs today created the 2 goals. At first, I thought it was Olympiacos that did both, but it was actually Mavropanos after I watched the replay that did the second goal. But the first goal was Olympiacos, gorgeous ball, cuts the lines. Bakasetas finishes it with a nice finish, we have to say. It was a very nice finish. But otherwise, Bakasetas didn't have an amazing game today, we have to say. I mean, that's just how it is. But it's Bakasetas. We know his limitations. You know what you get out of him. He has a cannon of a shot. He doesn't usually misplace passes, but he's not the most creative guy in the world. It's just how it is. So he plays an important role in this team. He got the goal. And then Mavropanos also. We have huge issues with the midfield in this Greek national team. And that's why we are relying on the likes of, the kids, Mouzakitis in particular, Zafiris. We have a lot of young kids, young talent that are able to offer things that we haven't seen on this national team in a very long time. So I think once we address those issues in the midfield, I think we're going to see some big things. I also think it's time that we see Panos Retsos. I would like to see him next to Olympiacos because, quite frankly, guys, Mavropanos is a little bit of a donkey in possession. He's a great defender. He's a physical guy, but he's a donkey in possession. I really think if we had a guy like Panos Retsos next to Olympiacos, I think it's a lot more mobility, much better, especially against these teams that are going to sit deep against us, a much better guy in possession. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents on the center back situation. But, in the midfield, we have to shake things up because it doesn't matter who plays. Jovanovic played Madalos today and Courbelis instead of Zafiris and Siopis. And quite frankly, the midfield did not look that much better. It really did not. So, I mean, it's time we need to make some changes. We need to introduce the young blood, which Jovanovic is doing slowly, and make something else work. Also, Pelkas, his time at the national team is up. His time is over. So, look, we could talk about a lot of issues with this national team. Jovanovic will get there slowly but surely. He's a logical coach, and he's already made some pretty logical decisions so far. But some of these players, their time's up. It's time we trust some other players a little bit more. We take a look. Maybe we bring in some others, but some of these pieces need to move on. We have to be honest with ourselves here. But all in all, I think that we all should be happy with what we've seen so far from Jovanovic, not just the fact that we got 15 points and we got a result against England once, but in the fact that we also are finally seeing that there are younger players being included and used. That's more than other coaches, Greek national team coaches, have done in the recent past, at the very least. So Jovanovic's football is pragmatic. It's efficient also. Very efficient. So we really need to include some of these more creative players, especially when we're in possession. And at the moment, I trust Jovanovic to make those adjustments more so than I trusted a guy like John Van Skip or a guy like Gus Poyet. So I think we will see those. I would think we will see those transitions made by Jovanovic, and we'll see more from this Greek national team. on the Olympiacos side of things, Olympiacos is going to play, and the Olympiacos players are going to play an extremely important role in this Greek national team. They don't really now. You look on the field and how many Olympiacos players are there? Masouras, Tsimikas, former Olympiacos player, right? That's all that we have on the field. We should be seeing more Retsos, to be honest with you. We should be seeing more Mouzakitis. There's players, Greek players, coming through Olympiacos that will be a very, very important part of this national team. And they'll have to include them because look at the other players that are out on the field. None of them almost none of them have played in the highest level of competition. There's a GS is ahead of me here because I was about to get to this discussion about the goalkeeper, Vlachodimos, who actually I thought was pretty good today. But Tsolakis, should we be starting Tsolakis, who's actually playing games? Should we be playing Tsolakis from now? Because he'll be the national team's goalkeeper for the next 15 years, at least. Is that what we should be doing? I think so. And I don't necessarily believe that, Vlachodimos was necessarily at fault for the goals that we ate against England. But I do agree. Tsolakis is playing all the time for Olympiacos. He's playing in the Europa League, and he's doing very well. We've put Tsolakis' stats up before. He's got one of the best reflex save percentages of a goalkeeper that we've ever had. We have never had a goalkeeper that is as effective when it comes to needing reflexes to make saves from point blank as Tsolakis. 90%. That is Tsolakis' efficiency when he has to make a reflex save. That is a save that is directly in front of him within a couple of meters, and he saves it. 90% efficiency from Kostas Tsolakis. We've never had a goalkeeper like that. Amazing stuff. So, yeah, I honestly agree. I agree that at this point, maybe we should be including Tsolakis because Vlachodimos isn't getting playing time. Now, he's still a core part of the team. I never expected Jovanovic to get rid of him from the beginning, but I think we will see that core group of talent. Alexa Drosism said here in a comment, Jovanovic said after the game that more youngsters will get the chance. Kostoulos is one for sure. Maybe Garetsas. So, yeah, Garetsas may decide to play for Greece as long as Lambro isn't fighting with his dad on social media. So that could blame Lambro for that. But no, and see, this is the thing. What coach have we had in the recent past for the Greek national team that has been thinking about the youth like that? JVS? No. Poyet? Mr. I don't have a plan B? No. Jovanovic has, which is really cool. And it's really uplifting in a way to see that. Because that's the only way we have a future. We have all these aging players that have achieved, some of them haven't achieved anything. They've been embarrassed when they enter European competitions on the biggest stage. No, that can't. No wonder we haven't achieved anything as a national team. Now it's time to get players, especially these guys that won the youth league. They're already playing for Olympiacos and are regulars in the first team at 17 years old, 21 years old. Those are the kids that we should be looking at. Those are the players that we should be looking at. Not Belkas. Not Hadziovanis. He wasn't called up this time, but you guys get my point. But anyway, it's that's how I see it. I might not be correct about it, but that's how I see it personally. GOK, can you imagine Mouzakitis, Garetsas, Zafiris, Tsolis, Kostadelias, and Pavlidis, Ioannidis, Kostoulas? In the near future, my friend, that's going to be the look. Players that have so much more potential than what's currently available. And, this midfield especially, guys, like for me, the disconnect on this national team is the midfield. We have pretty good defenders now, maybe except for Lazaros Rota, who I really don't rate as a player that much. But between the back line and we have some very great players in the forward line. Ioannidis is great for this national team. Pavlidis has his uses. Solis has been great for us on the left side. Had a goal today as well. On the right side, Masuras serves a purpose as well, but we also have other players too. We have Costadelias. We have plenty of players in that front attacking three that we can use. We have more creativity now. Plus, if you look at some of the young guys, at least for Olympiacos, like Papa Canelos and some of the other ones that are coming up, there's going to be stuff that's there. Now, it's the midfield that's the problem. What have we had to work with? We've had Bakasetas, we've had Madalos, we've had Corbelis, we've had Mouzakitis, wasn't called up this time, but you guys get my meaning. Siopis. We don't have a lot of creativity here. Bakasetas is the team captain, but again, we've discussed his limits before. Madalos is another one that somehow he's like a cockroach. He manages to stick around somehow. Wasn't bad today, but he's stuck around for so long. Johnny Zabuzgas. I agree with you, buddy. He says, explain to me how Madalos is even considered for the national team. He can't even crack the Ike 11. He's one of those legacies, right? He's one of those legacy players that has stuck around that also needs to kind of move on. But, you can't, Jovanovic can't get rid of everybody, right? So you can't move all these guys on that fast. You have to keep a core of some of the older guys to break in the newer players. That's just how it is. There's locker room politics, right? So there's locker room politics, locker room cliques. There's always the case. You have to keep the guys together that are going to help. We know Bakasetas is a leader, a locker room presence. Madalos probably has a presence too. So you do need to have some of that experience. Maybe Pelkas is. I doubt it, but maybe Pelkas is too. So I don't know what Hadziovanni's had, but thank God he's not included in this roster anymore. So Alexandros says, can we keep Lambro locked away in a cellar until Carezas makes his decision? I think Lambro just got back from Hawaii too. I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna save that one. That was that was hysterical. I'm gonna save that. GOK like Tavelas and even Torosidis was. Hold on. Tavelas was also a cockroach. Useless. Man, that guy's been useless for half a decade. Useless. Him and guys like him and Stafilidis, who were being called up to the national team with a previous administration of EPO with certain connections, weren't even playing for clubs, also getting included. Losers. But Torosidis, man, has been useful, even old. Torosidis is a workhorse. I would not include him in that. Torosidis is something else. But Stafilidis and Tsavelas, losers. I don't even know what Tsavelas is up to now. Isn't he like somebody's technical director somewhere? Is it Panathinaikos? Yeah, that fits. Yeah, Tsavelas was good for the locker room. Tsavelas was good for getting in fights with his own teammates. How about that? Tsavelas is a loser. Absolute loser. Adis, one of the Adis fans gets killed, and he's out there like calling Adis Skulikia after a game. Tone deaf, moron. Another one that this national team has so much difficulty getting rid of the cockroaches that are on this team. It's amazing. But anyway, so far most of them are gone. There's a couple left that need to move on too, and we'll be happier individuals. But it's a bright future for the Greek national team, guys. I feel so much. I haven't felt this positive about the Greek national team in a very long time. I mean, I remember when JVS first came in, and we saw like 2 games at the end of that qualifying campaign that was a disaster. And we're like, oh, maybe we're going to see something great. And then all of that was dashed when the team looked like crap and needed a penalty to beat Moldova. So I think it sucks when you dread having to watch the team. That sucks. So it's nice to be able to like feel good and excited, you know. Before I would dread, okay, we're going to see these idiot call-ups because of certain, you know, connections to between Eppo and certain leadership. We're going to see terrible football because these losers are playing. Now it's exciting again. It's exciting. There's potential. You are excited to see Greece play again, which is cool. And it's the same. It's going the same. Well, in a manner of speaking, for Olympiacos as well. We've got, even through some of the poor matches this season, we've got such an exciting group of players that they have something new, and they're so young. They're teenagers. They're going to be with this club a couple of years at least before we sell them, assuming we sell them. It's fantastic, and it's not done. We've got a steady stream of talent guys coming out. 5 kids trained with the first team during the break with Mendilibar. Now, obviously, the 3 of them probably were just there to make up numbers, but Lamin Silla and Yusuf Tay, the 2 kids that we brought that couldn't get work permits in Forest, that are here at Olympiacos playing, those 2 kids, Silla especially, are the real deal. I have a feeling, and I don't say this because I have any inside information about it. I'm just telling based on what I've seen. I have a feeling if it doesn't happen in the winter, Lamin Silla, at least one of those, between Yusuf Tay and Lamin Silla, one of them will be a part of Olympiacos' first team if they don't get sold. I'm telling you, those 2 kids are the real deal. They are solid players, too good for U19. You can already see it. Lamin Silla has like a goal contribution every 60 minutes already. He's absurd. And they're 18 years old. So there's so much great potential to look forward to for the future. We put it up on social media. There's a 15-year-old kid. There's a 15-year-old kid that just played for the youth league for the U19s. There's only 10 kids out of almost 1,800 players that play in the UEFA Youth League. There's only 10 kids that are under 16 years old. 10, 15-year-old kids. One of them is Yorgos Siozios, and he played for Olympiacos, the U19, when we played against Talina Kalev in the first leg, the Estonian side. So really cool to see that. So there's just so many different pieces that are available. And we're going to see how that goes, but it's really cool to see somebody that's 15 playing 4 years up. Vetanos here. Last time you said someone is a real deal, it was Sorlis. Look, Sorlis, when you compared how he played for the academy to the other kids, he was too big. But what do you want me to say? That kid has issues, mentality issues. He's unfortunately a lot of Greek talents like that. I hope it's not the case for these kids. I really do. We had there's a kid that debuted for Olympiacos that was younger than when Mouzakitis debuted, Liatsos, 16 years old when he played in the Cup in the 2019-2020 season. Now, he obviously never became a regular, not like Mouzakitis. I don't think any kid from the academy has done that in the recent past, or even since Marinakis bought the club. But, it was unfortunate. Everybody that kind of got involved with that B team really just had not much has come of them, unfortunately. But this is a golden group of kids that's coming out that just have a different sauce. Completely different sauce to them. So I'm hoping that they do a lot better than Solis. Solis seemed to care more about getting tattoos than keeping his head down and playing football. So unfortunately, there seems to be a lot more stuff that's going into that one, which is unfortunate. Because I did rate him. I really thought Solis could do something for us as maybe as a 6, helping us move the ball around. When he played for Olympiacos, when he came, I think it was in the cup game, he completed like 70 passes with like a 96% pass accuracy. Now, nothing super creative, but I thought he could be functional. Anywho. So the GOK hits the nail on the head right here. Greek kids always had a Bouzoukia problem. When they played 2 games in a first team, it was done. Yeah, because then everyone knows who they are. They get a lot of attention, in Athens. I remember always reading about Fefatsidis being out and about all the time. So I remember that one too. You just have to hope that the mentality's there. You guys have seen in the interviews we've done, the people that get involved in Greece always talk about the mentality of the Greek players, the Greek kids, the Greek players, weak mentality. But fortunately, it seems like the kids that we have right now in the academy, especially the 5 that have been called up, Bakoulas, Mouzakitis, Kostoulas, Koutsidis, Papacanelos, these guys are hard workers. Very, very, very hard workers, these guys. Bakoulas is putting in extra time all the time. All the time. So that's one big thing. That is one big thing for sure. I remember Vlachodimos, the Greek Cristiano Ronaldo. Oh my God. Yeah, I do remember seeing him play, and he would do step over, step over, step over, but then nothing ever happened after that. There was no end product with him. It was like, okay, great, nice step overs, but are you going to actually beat anybody? Are you actually going to feed the ball into the box? God, I remember that. So many. There were so many of those. I remember when Ninis was coming up, the Greek Schweinsteiger, they called him. Bauk had a kid that did he scored 2 goals against Panionios, I think. Koutsianikoulis was his name. Do you guys remember him? Oh my God, there's so many. There were so many. The Greek Messi, that's what they called. That was it. God, I remember all of those from it was like the 2007, from 2007 onward, and 2010. Actually, no, it was like 2010 and after. All those guys, insanity. Oh man, but the kids that are coming up now from Olympiacos' side of things, at least I can't speak to the other academies. All I know is that I can tell you we know some people that play in the younger divisions, that play for younger academies. There's no other academy in Greece that's really shelling out a lot of talent. We've heard a lot of bad things about the Panathinaikos Academy right now, the shell of its former self. Box, of course, Academy does really well. Olympiacos we've invested a lot of money into it. We've got the right people in the right places for Olympiacos' academy, as you can see. But other than that, nobody else really has anything like that, except for some of the smaller clubs that require it, and that's how you get some. So it's that's going to be how it is. The future is going to come from Olympiacos and PAOK, whatever's coming out of those 2 academies. That's it. Now, shifting gears a little bit, we didn't really talk about the game so much. I don't know how many of you actually care. If you guys do want me to talk about the game itself, I can, but I don't have to. If you have any questions, go ahead, drop them in here. But I did want to talk a little bit about, now that Olympiacos is coming back, this show is going to be the last one before a couple of weeks for me, because I'll be away this weekend in London for the Football Content Awards. So I won't be around for a show next week, maybe if I'm lucky, the one following. But Olympiacos has a pretty difficult schedule coming up. We've got AEK is the first game that's coming up next week. Olympiacos is playing against AEK at home. Now, we just came back from beating PAOK 3-2. Huge result for us. The table, I've never seen the table like this in the Greek Super League. So Olympiacos is coming back to play against AEK, and we host AEK. So it's AEK at home. And then a few days later, we travel to Romania to play FCSB. So really, really, really difficult set of fixtures coming up. Then after we play FCSB, we then return to Greece, we play against Ofi. Then we've got the Greek Cup against Galithea. So we've got there's a lot of football coming up. There's a lot. I mean, we've got a jam-packed schedule here. There's literally, guys, there's a lot of stuff coming up. But the first two matches back are difficult. We've got to beat Ike if we want to maintain this current pace that we have in the Super League. And then if we can get a result, we're going to need to get a result against FCSB, because if we want the top 8 spots, right now they're saying, based on the way things have done, the estimate is you need 14 points to hit top 8. We've got 7. We need to get CSB. Rangers beat them 4-0. If the team shows up, we should be able to do this. Get a result against FCSB. Then you figure out how you get a result against Twente. Figure out how you get a result against Porto, and then Karabag. You get a result against FCSB. It takes a lot of stress off of you further down the line. So let's, if we can get this win against Ike coming back, this would be huge. We had momentum, great momentum that we just carried in because of that Ike win going into the international break. We need this for Ike because this will keep us on pace. And then the schedule gets a little easier. So we need to do this. And then January will come quicker than you guys. We'll see it. We'll get through our opening rounds of Europa League, of this league phase. And then, at the very least, I think we should be able, even if we don't hit top 8, we should hit the knockouts. We've done enough, at least, to be very close to securing that. So then we got to talk about what's going to happen in January. There's already been a couple of questions that came in about what are we going to do with January? What are we going to handle about the transfers? What are we going to do? We already know, and we've seen it in Greek media already. We know that a left back is in the discussions. We have the player Athanasiou from Atromitos. He's an Atromitos Academy product that we've signed. Right now, he's going to be on loan for the rest of the season, and then he joins Olympiacos in the summer. We don't know if he's going to come here in January. And as a player, he's a nice player. He's a functional player for us. But is he going to be a game changer? Is he going to be like a Rodinei or a Costinha? And we have to wait and see. I think he'll be functional. Maybe a little bit more so than the functional that is Apostolopoulos. But I don't think he will necessarily be a huge game changer for us. He's Greek, which is really important. And he's done pretty good things for Atromitos this season. Pretty good data. But he's not going to be that type of game changer. And then that leads us to another thing we have to discuss. If we're looking at a left back in the winter and we're signing Athanasiou, and he's coming in the summer, there has to be movement somewhere in the left back position. Because if we're bringing a guy that's going to be competing as a starter, when Ortega comes back healthy, what are we doing with him? What happens to Apostolopoulos? All questions. And then don't forget, guys, we have Doran Leidner out on loan. He's not playing a lot, but we have a lot of left backs. We're going to end up having a lot of left backs. So so left back for me is a big one. If it were me, I probably would only make 2 signings, right? Depending on what we move on. If we're not going to move on any of the transfers that people are disappointed with, I would just sign a left back and a winger / attacking mid. We lost as Yazici to that season-ending ACL injury. We do need another winger, just in general, but I'm not sure I would get more than that. I'm comfortable at the center back position. I like what we have there, especially when everybody's healthy. In the midfield, people are talking about getting another deeper midfield. People are upset with Stamenic, who's been disappointing so far. Danny Garcia, who, of course, has been quite disappointing. But, then we also have Mouzakitis and Bakulas. So Santiago Heze plays, of course, a very important role. Chiquinho's been playing up in that number 10 position because of the press. I don't necessarily believe we need a lot of reinforcements in the midfield. Now, sure, if we cut Stamenic's loan, I'm okay with bringing another one in. But honestly, guys, I'd much rather give Bakulas a shot. He hasn't even gotten to play yet. We've heard so much about, like, he's ready, he's waiting for his turn. I would much rather give Bakulas a shot than bringing in what are we going to be able to get in the winter is the question. What are we going to be able to get? I'd rather not get a has-been that is going to inevitably end up disappointing us. I'd rather give the time to Bakulas. If we're disappointed with everybody, I'd rather give the time to Bakulas. I'll say this. Stamenic needed time at Red Star also. He did not look great in the beginning of the season for them either. He took time to grow in, and then he did very well. I've told you guys this before. We've talked a lot about Stamenic. We've talked to people in Serbia. We've talked to individuals close to the team, and Stamenic did. Everyone said the same thing. He's a great player, hard worker, but he needed time to transition. So he came with commendations. So maybe he's one that turns out in the second half of the season. Sergio Oliveira is one that's disappointed a lot of people. Sergio Oliveira, for me, is not a guy you play in the 10. I mean, he's a guy that's deeper. His distribution's great. I don't like that we play him up at the 10, but clearly his physical level is not where it needs to be for the full court press. So maybe that's something as well. Maybe we see, and we know he's not happy sitting on the bench. But I think, we saw him play deeper one time, and we saw way better value with him moving the ball around from deep than we did than we did further up the pitch. So I think Sergio Oliveira, if we're going to use him, he has to be used deep. But then if you start using him in deep, that means you're not going to see Bakulas, guys. And who do you play him over? If you're going to play Sergio Oliveira deep, who do you play him over? Are you going to play him over Santiago Heze? No, he doesn't do enough running. So that means you have to play him over Mouzakitis. And I sure as hell am not touching Mouzakitis. So it's a difficult thing right now with Sergio Oliveira. Difficult. Because you want him to play deeper. He looks better deeper. But he would be a substitute at best. So you really can only play him at the 10. Difficult. This is a difficult situation to be in if you are Sergio Oliveira. So if we're looking at the wings, a lot of you get upset about Christopher Velde. Christopher Velde is going through a very similar issue this season as he did with Lech Poznan in Poland. We talked about a YouTube. We were given a YouTube video of an interview of one of Christopher Velde's former teammates. And he kind of talked about him a little bit and how Velde started it was very tough for Lech Poznan. The fans hated him. They hated his celebrations. People hated, not just fans, but teammates hated how he would gesticulate, how frustrated he would get, and how he wouldn't do what he was supposed to, and how he wasn't doing the running that everybody else wanted to. And to the point where his teammate even told him, I'm not running twice for you. You better cover your man. You better do this. And it took a lot of tough love before Christopher Velde eventually a switch turned, and he became one of the hottest players in Poland. So we talked and we've talked about Velde before, and his production started to pick up, but some of the same issues that the fans have persist. So I think Christopher Velde will come good. We just have to be willing to give him time. If we're bringing another winger in, then part of the message that's being sent is that we're not happy with him either. Because right now, Your best winger, your best wing option is Gelson Martins. We saw more from Babis Kostulas in the press on the right side than we've seen from a lot of players. There's Masuras, who's not getting a lot of game time. Willian is injured. There's Christopher Veld, who usually, of course, plays inverted on the left. So if you're bringing in another winger that's going to compete and somebody like that, while you also have Papa Canelos, you're kind of, there's not going to be as much time seen for Christopher Veld. So there's a lot of things that need to be discussed. There's a lot of issues, a lot of movement that needs to happen if we do want to bring these other players in. And I don't think we should rush to bring a lot of players in if they're not better than what's there. Like, unless you're bringing a player that is leaps and bounds better than Papa Canelos, it's not worth it. Unless you're bringing a player that's leaps and bounds better than Bakulas, it's not worth bringing a midfielder. I don't think it's going to be as hard to find an upgrade at left back as it will be to find upgrades in other positions. There were people that brought up the striker position. There were people that brought up bringing in a new forward. Well, right now, guys, your second forward is Babis Kostulas. So if you bring another forward in, one that you know is going to compete, then you take time away from Babis Kostulas. Is that what you want? Now, if you bring in if you're paying a wage for a third choice striker, what quality are you getting? Yaremchuk, look, we've talked about this before. Yaremchuk has ability. Whatever's going on with Yaremchuk is up here. Maybe as a profile, he doesn't fit perfectly in Medellíbar's system. He's not a Jovetic type of player that can sit back, that will distribute. He kind of wants to be a point man. He's competent with the ball at his feet. But everything that's going on with Yaremchuk right now is here. And we paid a lot of money for him. We did. So a lot of money for Olympiacos at least. So I think that in this situation, I think that I don't know how much more value you get from maybe even if you dump Yaremchuk. I don't know how much more value you get from getting another striker, especially if Babis Kostulas is going to be the second choice striker. GS has a great question here. Can Kostulas do the work of El Kaabi if he's injured? He does the work on the press. It's the finishing, right? But again, what player do you think you can get that's going to give you what El Kaabi's giving you right now? You guys saw the stats that we posted for El Kaabi and the absurd level of production he has for us so far this season. It is his efficiency, his goal conversion, his shot accuracy. He has among forwards in the Europa League right now, he's got the highest shot accuracy, 75% among forwards with at least 100 minutes in the Europa League. His goal conversion isn't as insane as it was in the second half of last season, but it's still high. Still in the 30s, in the 30%, it was like 36%, which is really good. We have not been able to replace that efficiency, period. We have been trying to get somebody else to back up El Arabi that could do that, and since Hassan was the only one that could do that, but then Hassan couldn't do anything else. So you're not going to get that. And I think now that Babis Kostulas has finally, as Kostas Llanos has broken his duck, he scored against Bauk in pretty good fashion, and he's a really hard worker. I think that we'll see something from him, but we're not going to spend big money on a third choice striker. I think we'll probably ride it out with Yaremchuk, to be honest with you. We have other pressing needs. And if there were FFP issues already, which is why we made the moves that we made and we couldn't make bigger moves, I doubt there's going to be a lot of wiggle room for us to bring in a lot more players. The core needs that we have, there's two. We need a left back and we need a winger. Left back and a winger. Because it's only a matter of time before Gelson gets hurt again. Probably sustain an injury. There's no way we can have him playing 90 minutes, 3 games in 10 days. Not going to work. Christopher Veld is Christopher Veld. Not on the same level of Gelson Martins. And unless he can find that form much more quickly, you'll get something out of him. Masuras is not reliable this season also. So we do need, especially with Willian injured, and he hasn't looked great to begin with, we need another option for the wing, somebody that can give us a different look. So for me, those are the two. If I had to pick two that I really want to spend on quality for, those are the two positions, left back and winger. I'm not really touching anything else. I'd rather use what's available for everything else. I don't think it's going to be sustainable for us. I don't think it's going to be sustainable for us to bring in 4 or 5 players. What happened last year in January, bringing in and all those players and missing on really only one. You only missed on the striker that we brought in. My God, I already forgot his name. But you brought in Chiquinho, you brought in Horta. It's you made some really, really good finds. Gelson Martins, you made you almost everybody that came in did work for you. So I don't think you can expect that to happen again. So I think that if you're going to do it, you pick 2 players, the left back, the wing. You get proper players. You don't try to 5 and dime things. You use the budget. You get those 2 players, and then I think we can function with everything else. So I think that would be the case here. So there's a couple comments coming in, so I'll read your comments in a second, guys. So let's see. GS, we won't find another Alkabi, but we do need a proven goal scorer, even if on loan. Technically, Yaremchuk's a proven goal scorer. He just hasn't scored in a couple years with what's been going on. So GOK, that's why you need a player who's here with his head. Feel sorry for Yaremchuk, but we need a player who's here. I don't disagree with that. Bubaklis, I think this is a new one. So welcome, Bubaklis. Tell us where you're coming in from, because I don't recognize this name. Kostulas could replace Alkabi in center forward only if we had a winger that scores and an attacking midfielder that can pass better. Otherwise, he'll fit exceptionally behind. Yeah, he did look good behind the striker. We've played him there before. He also looked great on the wing because of his pressing ability. So yes, I do agree with this. Now, we do have a winger that scores. We actually have 2 of them that can score. Christopher Veld as a winger scored more than he assisted. Gelson Martins has, right now, he's on track to break Podenz's goal contributions from last season. And not to mention, Gelson Martins is responsible for almost 50% of the goals that we score when he's playing. Actually, sorry, more than that. He's responsible for almost 60% of the goals that we score when he's playing. So there's that. We just need another one. We need another winger that is creative. GS, everyone was screaming blue. Why the club didn't sign Podence? If we signed Podence and left Yaremchuk and other flops. Okay. We've talked about this with Podence so many times, guys. We were never going to be able to afford Podence. Even if Wolves had agreed to lower their ask for Podence to the 5.9 that the Saudis paid, Podence wanted 3 million euros net before bonus. 3 million net before bonuses. 3 million net in Greece before taxes is 5 million gross. So right there, so 5.9 million. Okay, so you have a 5.9 million fee you have to pay. Then he wants 5 million gross wage per year. That hits your books. If you're signing him on a 3-year contract, that hits your books for about 7 million a year. Just for Podence. Guys, it wasn't happening. That deal, if you had signed Podence, and Podence, by the way, wanted a 5-year deal. Just putting that out there. He wanted a 5-year deal. So So 5-year deal for $5 million a year gross, not counting bonuses, plus the $5.9 million transfer fee. That means the deal you have had to put together for Podence is worth $30 million. It's not happening. It was not happening. It was not happening. So just put it that way. And guys, besides Podence, even if we re-sign Podence and Fortunis, we still need another winger. We finished last season. We had 3 wingers. You can't do that. We're so lucky that Podence, Fortunis, and Masuras didn't get hurt and that they made it through that season. Gelson Martins got hurt all of last season, the second half of last season. You had 3 wingers. So you can't say, oh, if we hadn't bought Christopher Velde, we could. No, because we still needed him. We still needed to bring other players in. So no, you can't attribute 7 million euros to one player. It's not possible. It's not possible. We're still paying 5 other coaches. We're still paying 5 other coaches, guys. We can't. We can't. We can't. That's just the fact. That's just how it is. Up until this season, 55 million euros of losses that had to be covered by Marinakis himself to meet FFP, right? 55 million in losses. The allowance is 60 for a club that isn't deemed healthy, and I promise you we're not deemed healthy. So this is the problem. Now, there's reasons for that. A lot of bad decisions were made that led to this. So we're not saying that the club isn't at fault for the mess that we're in, because things led to this, right? There were issues that led to get us to this point. But the fact of the matter is, at this point this year, you could not make that. Period. For whatever the case was, whatever the reasons are, I'm not absolving anybody of blame. I'm just pointing out the money that was spent. And we didn't sell players, guys. We didn't sell players this summer. We sold 1. And we made what, like 14 million we paid 14 million in fees. So that's the situation we found ourselves in. And that's why you could not spend all of the money on Podence. And Podence even said in an interview that he was always coming to Saudi. He said he had done everything. He had done everything he wanted to in Europe. He felt that way. So what are you going to say, guys? What are you going to say? The mistake for me, forget Podence. The mistake wasn't not signing Podence, because Podence clearly made his choice. The mistake was the club should have done what they did with Kostas Fortunis. You give Podence a deadline. You either say yes to this offer that we're giving you or not. And you don't, we move on to the next thing. They waited till the last minute, and then they got themselves into a bad situation, and they panicked, and we went back to signing the types of signings that we did before. That's the truth, guys. Now, I still disagree with the value of some signings, but anyway, that's the case that we're in. So I don't know what kind of signings we'll be able to make in January without sales. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what the FFP outlook is. I don't think we could ever know 100% what the FFP outlook is. So in that respect, I don't know really what we can sign. I can guess that we will be bringing in, we will be looking for some deals, obviously, free players. Don't be surprised if there's a loan from Nottingham Forest. There was already, Greek media was talking about an 18-year-old kid that they have. I can give you his name in a second because I'm forgetting it. Let me just pull it up here. But there was a Eric da Silva Moreira. He's a winger, and Forest rate him. I talked to some people that are familiar with the player. Talked to some people in England, and he's very highly rated by Forest. Very highly rated. And they told me if he's coming here, it's to play. He's played on the wing, Maybe that's an option for us. 18-year-old. He's played. He was captain apparently of the German U21 team. So an interesting player. But again, this is probably the type of deals that you're going to have to make in the winter because unless we sell somebody. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to get. We're going on an hour here, guys. So for those of you that are still here, there's right now. There's over 140 of you hanging out with me right now. A lot more than that have tuned into the show. So thank you guys that have tuned in so far. Don't forget, hit that like button if you're tuning in for the first time. Subscribe. Consider following us. There's a lot more content coming. And of course, you can follow along with us while we're in London for the Football Content Awards. So like and subscribe. If you're listening on audio, give us a 5-star review so we can find more of you. I'm going to hit up a couple more of your questions before I close things up here. It's just me today. It does get tiring talking to you guys all by myself. So a couple comments that were coming in while we were having to talk about the signings. GS, if I'm not mistaken, the money we would have saved from Yaremchuk and Velde would have covered the majority of his salary and fee. Well, we paid $2.7 million for Yaremchuk, and I think he's making about $2 million. So no. It wouldn't have come close. And Veld, guys, Veld was coming either way. We needed another winger. We needed one way or another. So if you want to argue that maybe we should have saved money on a winger, fine. That's one thing. But no, Veld was coming one way or another because we needed another winger, period. So that's how, unfortunately, that's how that worked. And another thing is, the timing of Podence and his change in fee. Remember, early on, Podence Wolves, I spoke to people from the camp. I spoke to people that spoke directly to Wolves. I spoke to multiple people around there. Wolves would not lower. They wanted 10 million at the time. They refused to budge. Refused. Everyone knew that eventually they would have to budge towards the end, but Wolves were refusing to budge early on. So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place because at the time when Podence was willing to accept less money, Wolves were not. Then by the time Wolves were willing to accept less money, Podence wanted more money because of the Saudi offer. That's it. That's how it works. But it doesn't matter. Either way, unaffordable. Bubaklis, but Addis, we are the Conference League champions, so it's very logical to give $3 million to Podence, who was a key player to win this trophy, and exact same with Fortunis. I'm not disagreeing with that, but you guys are also, the problem is most people think that those players really wanted to come back to Olympiacos. Guys, Fortunis, and we have this on very good authority, the bags were packed last year. He was ready to go to Saudi Arabia last summer. He was not staying, and that's why the club put a timetable on his offer. He was not coming back, unfortunately. There's so much. If you're in the WhatsApp group, we've given you a little bit more insight into the Fortuny situation. But there's a lot more to the Fortuny situation than just money. So that's the thing. I can't tell you guys any more than that. If you join the Patreon group, you can get a little bit more insight. But that's it. Achilles Best, you could say a million things about Mouzakitis. The only thing you can't say is he doesn't spend enough. That's true. You can't say that he doesn't spend. He spends a lot. He spends a lot of money. How the money is spent, those are conversations that we can have over the course of the years. But I think that the decisions that are being made now have to be more carefully evaluated. And I think that with the multi-club model, the focus is on the sharing of resources, not players that clubs don't want. So I think we're getting there, but it's baby steps with this club, always. Okay, is it the fault of Mouzakitis that he hires and fires a coach when he's not getting a result, when he doesn't have Martins and even Marco Silva, the transfer they wanted to bring us to a next level? Well, look, man, this is a Greek thing. We fire coaches. That's it. And yeah, look, we went through 6 coaches, guys, before we got Mendilibar. So yeah, of course. It hurts. You're paying those contracts out. Do you think every coach comes in and says, oh, it didn't work out. I don't need any money. No, they want to get paid. Of course they do. So then, we have a squad ratio. This year, I think if I remember correctly, was we've talked about it so many times and I always forget. We're at about 70% now. You can only pay 70% of your total revenue on wages. So yeah, you have to pay 3 coaches. You're paying coaches $1 to $2 million a season. It adds up. And that means you can't sign other players because you can't pay big wages. That's it. That's it. And quite frankly, guys, the role of the owner is the bank. He's supposed to be putting people in that are making these decisions. He's not necessarily supposed to be making those decisions themselves. But when things don't go bad, we know that Marinakis jumps in and handles things themselves. So it's that's the situation here. And unfortunately, the really bad bringing in 30, 40 players, 2 years ago and before that, and having to move, like, that doesn't help things. It doesn't. That gets you into these situations. So I'm not absolving the club of the mistakes it made in the past, but those mistakes caught up to us. And that's why we couldn't make the signings that we did this summer. So that's unfortunately the situation. GS, I'm sorry, we can't keep making excuses to excuse the bad transfer policies. A little bit of humility will go a long way. I will disagree that the transfer policy this summer wasn't bad. Here's why. It's nuanced, right? Of course, not all the players have turned out. You're never going to hit 100%. But I prefer the way the business was done this summer than signing 30 players in one window. That's horrible. And we saw that it did nothing for us for 2 seasons. I would rather the club did what it did this summer, was a little bit more careful. They panicked when they weren't able to get Podence, and we had to make some signings toward the end of the window that didn't work out. But I preferred the instead of signing a whole bunch of different players that end up going all over the place, Pirola, Pirola, Costinha, that kind of thing. Those are the signings I like. And I think the club took a good step in going the right direction. Baby step. And I think improvements will come. But, there's I think that it took a good first step into doing business the correct way. Bubaklis, of course, money. It's not the money. That's the problem. I think the problem comes from the second ACL injury, where he was asked to take less than his contract. Kostas Fortounis, yes, at the time, right? That deal, he was set to make 1.7 million. I think it was 1.7 million in the final year of his contract. Now, at that time, he was on the outs with the club. Pedro Martins didn't want him. He was on the outs, and the club basically came to him and said, we need to restructure your deal. And they did. They extended him for 2 more seasons. Pedro Martins gets fired. We go through the coaching carousel. Michel puts the faith in him, and then he finds, he becomes the Fortunis that we know and love again in this past season, especially under Diego Martinez. He had incredible goal contribution count. So that's how that worked out, unfortunately. But, that stuff doesn't just become water under the bridge, unfortunately. I can't tell you if Kostas Fortounis had that in mind when he made the Saudi move, but all I can tell you is that there's been a very long history with Fortounis at this club. Andreas Antim, when did Edu start to work for Marinakis' group? I can't tell you that. All I can tell you is Edu has been around for a while. Costa and Costa talked about on the show, they talked about, they met him at a function a few months ago, 6 months ago. So, he's been around. And even in Greek media, he was at the birthday party for Marinakis, I think. So it's that's how, that's all I can tell you on that. Sorry. Alex Beck, what do you think of the rumor of Pirola going to Juventus? Alex, if you missed the earlier part of the show, I talked about that. Shouldn't surprise anybody. He's captain of the under the U21 or whatever it is that he's captain of for Italy. He played for Salernitana. He had 50 caps for Salernitana when he played for them before they got relegated in Serie A. So he's coming to us. He's looking good. He's playing. We're the Conference League champions. He's getting exposure on the European stage. It doesn't surprise me that they would want him for a backup. But he's not going to be cheap. We're not going to give him up for cheap. So I wouldn't sell him right now. He's too important, especially with the left backs that are injured, and he looked good at left back. No, sir. Unless you're throwing 20 million at me, I'm not even entertaining the question. That's really have to go for there. So the final thing I'll tell you, as GS says, he still agrees to disagree with me on Podence. The final thing I will tell you guys is The part of the reason why a lot of us are upset and became upset about this issue is because of how much we fell in love with the player at this club, how much we saw that he loved the club. And I'm not saying that he doesn't care about the club, because I don't think that's the case at all. But Podence knew what he was doing over the summer when he was doing the social media things and the pictures and saying how much he loved it. And every month he was doing the pictures about the Conference League and how much he loved Greece. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. And so much pressure was put on the administration to give him what he asked for. And he ended up going to take the money from Saudi Arabia anyway. He knew what he was doing. We fell for it. That's it. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't love him as a player. I'm not saying he doesn't love Olympiacos, but he knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing, and he did it masterfully, playing that. But he was going to take the money. You heard the interview in Saudi Arabia. That's all I'm going to say. That's the last thing I'm going to say about that. GOK, I agree half with you. I prefer not signing any more players who are 34 plus at age. No more Williams, no more Marcelos, even if they bring the money with shirt sales. Before I close up here, I'll give you this one last caveat with Willian. Cosas Llanos told you guys, Fulham wanted him back. They were fighting like hell to re-sign him. We signed him. This is a different situation with Willian and Marcelo. Marcelo played less than 1,000 minutes for Real Madrid before he came to us. He was not playing much at all. Willian played last season over 30 games for Fulham. He was a regular. They loved him there. He was doing extremely well. And if you can play 30 matches at 34 years old in the Premier League, then that says a lot more than a player that played less than 1,000 minutes for Real Madrid before he got here. Now, the issue became, turns out he's been nursing an injury for a while. And the previous medical staff that we had never properly evaluated, and they never properly evaluated him. And at the same time, they rushed him back to play, and he got injured again. So we can say, look, we never should have signed a player for that much money. He's the top paid player in the league. And because this is what you deal with, and you're right. That is the situation. But at the same time, had we let him get healthy and not rushed him back, would we be talking about something different? Maybe, maybe not. For me, he doesn't look interested. Even when he was playing and he was supposed to be healthy, I think he looked disinterested. But I agree with you in that I would prefer no more like has-beens. I don't think they do anything for us. And we saw when we brought guys like James Rodriguez, and so I don't know. That's my preference. That's my preference. GS is asking if they evaluated him. Well, the old medical team supposedly did evaluate him, and that is now the reason why we don't work with that medical team anymore. We're now partnered with a new medical team. We put it up on our socials. I'm already forgetting the name, but that's the new medical team now. So that's part of the reason why we cut. That's part of the reason why we cut the collaboration with them. Roll face. What interview in Saudi was this talked about earlier in the show? Yes, it was, and we've talked about it in the show. When the interview came out, Lambro talked about it. He did an interview in Saudi Arabia talking about the decision, it was in Portuguese media. Talking about his decision to go to Saudi Arabia, and that he felt that he had completed everything he wanted to and that he could in Europe. He didn't think he could do anything else. And in that respect, I think he means winning a European title, because as far as I'm aware, he never won a domestic title. He didn't win a domestic title with us ever. So, but maybe winning a Conference League is what he was referring to. Do you know what money Martial is getting out of interest? Yes, he's getting 3 million, about 3 million euros. I think it's 3 million. It's either 3 or 3.5 euros. So that's what he's getting. GOK, I prefer losing 3 championships, but give young and Greek kids a chance. I don't like losing championships, but I'm with you. I love that we're giving Greek kids a chance. So, guys, we are hour and 15 minutes here. we've kind of beat a lot of these issues to death. We started talking about Podence again, which I hate talking about Podence and Fortunis now that they're gone because it is what it is. But anyway, this is where we are, and can't wait for club football. It's back. I'm so excited. I'm pumped that we're getting back to club football. I always once the Greek national team is done, once those 2 games are done, that's it. I get excited about the Greek national team for 2-3 days, but then I get sick of it and I want to go back to club football. So super happy that the red and white is back. Super happy that Olympiacos is coming back home and we're going to get to see games. So Ike up next. Basketball, we play against Baskonia. And then I also think the U19 play coming up as well. I think the U19, and I can double check that real quick for you guys because I think they play this week also. I think they play their next UEFA Youth League game, if I'm not mistaken. They play against oh my God, I'm already forgetting the name of this team. Trenčín, I want to say. Trenčín is the name. So, no, sorry. They will play Ike also, and then they play Trenčín the following week. So that is the schedule coming up. All right, G, okay, I'll answer this last question. What do you think we're going to do in the next 3 matches? So, as I said before, Olympiacos is going to play against Ike at home. Man, I tell you what, man, I hate doing these types of hot takes because it always goes against me, whatever I feel. Ike is going to be tough, but I think we ride. I think Mendilibar, it's going to be a rough game, but I think we get the win at home. I think we do. It's going to be tough, maybe 1-0. It's going to be ugly, but I think we get. I think maybe there'll be some controversy as well. Then we play FCSB in Romania. I think we get the win in Romania. Rangers won 4-0. I'm not expecting us to win 4-0, but I think it'll be maybe a 2-0, 2-1 type of situation. And then I think Ofi is after that, and I think we get the win. Look, everyone's had a difficult time in Crete this year, but you know what's funny? I think we get the win against Ike and the win against FCSB, and I think we draw against Ofi. That's where I see this going. So there you go. You have my next 3 match predictions. So it'll probably be wrong because anytime I take a real stance on something, it's always wrong. But thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for sticking around with me for an hour and 20 minutes. Football Content Awards this week. If you are in London this week, let me know. Reach out to me on socials. I will be there. We are super excited about this, and we will take pictures. We will keep you guys updated on how it goes. We're not expecting to win anything. We're a really small project compared to what we're up against, but the fact that we're there is really cool. So hopefully we meet some cool people. Hopefully we make some fun connections, and we can continue to offer you guys great content and do more in this space. So thank you guys again for your support. I'm Adi. This is Trilos International, by the fans, for the fans. We'll see you guys next time.